PokeClass is sponsored by CollectorsCash.com, who are now stocking your brand new set, Dragons Exalted, at very competitive prices. Whether you want to kickstart your collection with a sealed box, or want those competitive singles for a tournament, Collectors Cash should be your first stop. Check out www.collectorscash.com after the show for all of your competitive Pokemon TCG needs. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 88 of PokeClass, where you join me the day after my second Battle Roads, which I'm going to talk you through today, but with a bit of a difference. I changed my deck choice from last time and don't mind sharing my list as it was a little bit different. So I'm going to not only go through how my day went, but also show you the list I used and why I chose it. So yesterday brought us to Nottingham Battle Roads, which usually attracts not only the largest attendance for a tournament, but the most competitive, even more so than Sutton Coldfield was 2 weeks ago, where I ended up winning the event. However, a lot of the same players were there, with a couple more Worlds competitors thrown in, so the difficulty of making a good placing at this tournament was the same, if not higher, than it was at Sutton. We had around 38 Masters this time, which is fairly large for a Battle Roads in the UK, and we had a total of 6 Swiss rounds and a top 8 cut. I know the top cuts were only supposed to be no more for Battle Roads, but that rule only applies in the US, as mentioned in my last tournament report, so the UK can still have top cuts, however large they need for the attendance. As you may have guessed from the title of the video, I played Darkrai Terrakion over my winning Hydreigon list from last time, which I do kind of regret now, but my luck was a bit harsh in this tournament, so the true strength or weakness of Darkrai Terrakion is kind of hard to judge. However, I did play this, which is pretty much just straight Darkrai, with 3 Terrakion, 4 Energy Switch and some Sableye thrown in there, to combat the predicted rise in Darkrai Hydreigon at the tournament, due to the early release of the EX tins. The rise in the amount of Darkrai being played was true, which was good for me, but other players had also cottoned on to this fact and played Terrakion based decks, which is both good and bad for me. But enough of all this rambling and onto the report before I get to my list and see why it performed as it did. So 6 rounds meant that most 4-2s would reach a top 8 with decent resistance, so it would always be good to start off with a win, which I was searching for against Luke Burke, who is a great player, topping worlds multiple times in seniors, so I know I was in for a tough game. I go second to his double Dynamo, which I was feeling good about as a turn 1 Retaliate in hand, but Swift N from his side stops that in his tracks. I still get a fairly decent hand with the fighting attachment I need to threaten the KO the next turn, and I do get 2 initial KOs on Dynamos, but the rest of my hand is nothing special at all, as I have to discard 2 Energy Switch with Juniper, which ended up crippling me later on. By the end of the game, a 6 or 7 energy Mewtwo is staring me down, and I Juniper almost the rest of my deck to get an Energy Switch and Mewtwo for the return KO, with him having 8 cards in deck. He Junipers the rest of his deck, knowing the Mewtwo and DC are there, and gets the last 2 prizes with his own X-Ball. So not a great way to start the tournament, as I'm chasing for that top cut spot now. Second round, I'm against Nick Pierce, who is a great guy and I've met a few times and traded with on YouTube, so I was looking forward to this. Again, I go second with a Terrakion start, but my first 3 or 4 turns are supporterless, as he gets a turn 2 Hydreigon and starts setting up. This game is pretty normal from there, and I start to pick up pace, but my Terrakions are always met with a Dragon Blast from Hydreigon, and I'm left with only a Darkrai to take this with. Time is called on my turn, which I can't take a KO on, and if he has the max potion, the game is his, and he ends to 2, gets the max potion he needs to save his EX, and takes the KO to seal the game. So 0-2 following my decent run at Sutton, and I'm already regretting not playing Hydreigon. My third round, I'm against a guy who is fairly new to the game, so it was very laid back, and he's playing Electric. Unfortunately, he has no supporters all game, and I just set up a Terrakion and sweep his entire field of Pokemon. 1-2, and I need to win out to have a slim chance at getting top cut. And my next game is against Charles Barton, who is also having a rough day, and he's obviously a great player, which means one of us is out of the running completely after this game. He's running his trusty Rayquaza Electric, and I managed to go first this time, getting my first attachment on my Terrakion, which results in a KO on the Dynamo turn 2 with Retaliate, and again on another Dynamo as he attempts to paralyze his way out of his bad start. I do make a horrid misplay by benching and setting up a Darkrai without an Eviolite, which gets captured and KO'd by Rayquaza. However, this does steer the attention away from my 2 Eviolited Terrakions, which are causing him a lot of issues, as I managed to 2-shot both of his remaining Rayquaza EX for the game, with the help of both Land Crush and Tool Scrapper. Immediately, he shows me that he had 2 Eels prize, which pretty much sealed the game, as he couldn't get enough energy into play to keep KOing my Terrakions, so 2-2 and still going. My next game was against Ishmael Buddington Brown, who I've played against once before, all the way at state championships 2 years ago, and the game was very fun to play, so I was looking forward to this one. I start with a Mewtwo, which isn't great against his heals as he undoubtedly runs multiple copies, but I do get the first KO as his hand is horrible, or so I thought, as it drops the Mewtwo and DCE for the KO. From here I struggled to keep up and have to Sableye to keep energy and resources in play, which eventually works out. I have enough Terrakions to distract from setting up my Darkrai's, but he lays down a surprise Registeel EX, which I really wasn't expecting at all and put me on a timer as it needed to be KO'd before it took the remaining 3 prizes in one go. Luckily I get the 2-shot thanks to Snipe Spear and Tool Scrapper, which seals up the game for me as all he has is a Zekrom and 2 Eels that he really can't do anything with, and I take it to 3-2. And my last game of the day is against a guy called Ollie, who is a really cool guy and said that I got him into the game, which was amazing to hear. He also is playing electric, so I was feeling great about my matchup. Unfortunately, the game isn't as exciting as he draws really dead for the whole time, as I set up a Terrakion and take more than half my prizes before he gets anything going. My strong lead and my deck actually working well for once brings me out on top, and I do end up finishing 4-2. We played a couple more games, but they were much better and more evenly won by both sides. He's an awesome guy, so it was great to meet him. So I did manage to get to 4-2, but missed cut due to my horrible running in the first 2 rounds, but that's how Pokemon goes sometimes. I think I'll be at 1 more Battle Roads next month to try and top my points up a little bit more, but I'll let you know more about that soon. And now onto my list for the day, which looked like this. In all honesty, I didn't think that the list was that inconsistent as it showed it could be on the day. I ran the same amount of supporters as in my Darkrai Hydreigon list, but I did miss the versatility of being able to save energy when expecting a KO, rather than them all going and having to rely heavily on Dark Patch. I did like having Energy Switch as it allowed for very strange plays to come out of nowhere, including the Retaliate, but never actually managed to pull it off effectively the whole day. In comparison, I feel like Darkrai Hydreigon is definitely better, but this deck is certainly pretty good as I managed to win the games when I had the supporters available to keep up with my opponent. Maybe taking things out like a potion and an extra energy search for 2 supporters would be something I would have done, as I seem to draw into energy fine without the use of energy search. But other than that, I was pretty happy with my deck, but I feel I should have stuck with my guns and gone with what went well last week, which is something I've had to learn the hard way, even though 4-2 isn't a bad record to get at a tournament with such a large combined skill level. Also at the tournament, my other half Gemma managed to 6-0 the Swiss rounds with Hammer Time and shows just how consistent Darkrai can be even without the support from Pokemon such as Terrakion and Hydreigon, and also shows how strong Sableye is in this current format where consistency is pretty tough to get right when not running it. She did unfortunately lose in top 8 to Darkrai Hydreigon, but 6-0ing the tournament was definitely a great achievement. At the end of the day, Tommy Roberts took the win with his Ho-Oh variant, a deck that has been doing surprisingly well when no one thought it was good at all before the season began, and it has now won the 3rd most Battle Roads so far with Eels in 2nd and the almighty Darkrai Hydreigon coming in 1st. And that is pretty much all for this week's episode of PokeClass. Thank you all for watching and the massive support you've been showing for my videos as always, with me hitting 3,500 subscribers last week after just hitting 3,000 last month. The way my channel is growing and the pace that it's growing is all down to you, so thank you so much. Video uploads have been slow for me this week, but that's due to me sorting out some new partnership for my channel, which is very exciting for both you and me, but I'll save those details for another time. And with that, I will end episode 88 of PokeClass. Thank you all again for watching. Please give this video a like and comment down below with how you did at your Battle Roads so far, and look forward to next week's episode analysing Battle Roads results before they finish before cities. Have a great week, and I'll see you all next time.